It's July 13th. hmm And I would like to spend my birthday with my sons, with Marilyn Van Proyen and her kids. Now, I know it was important to you to misprison all of your crimes. Yeah. But I've given you more than enough evidence to completely remove your fraud. And as much as you would say that it's Saturday and the court's not open today, yes, I would like somebody in the United States to enforce the laws. Now, this Poland, there's a possibility, yes, that my great grandfather might have had some sort of royal blood in him. Yeah. Just looking at his other siblings and what he did as a peace officer. Right, right, right. Hastings, ooch. I just wanted you to know that if you are intentionally misprisioning all this treason, police department, I will completely rip apart the state of South Dakota. Now, there's Nebraska, ooch, there's North Dakota and South Dakota. And then one of these states, Warren Buffett, yes, has a state chartered bank. hmm Seems to be the example for the rest of the nation. They always bring it up anytime there's some sort of economic crisis. Yes, yes. Omaha, Nebraska, the Oracle. Right now! Now, I know, yes, that being an individual, yes, that really thinks that my father, Paul Douglas Budnick, yes, and then there's Edward Budnick, yes, there is, and then there's Edward Budnick's father. There's a possibility, yes, that Edward Budnick did cross the desert when he was 15 to 16 years old, yes, and he did make it to Arizona when it was first kind of, well, incorporated as a state, and might have kind of gotten a lay of the land and possibly had some sort of patent or some other document that enabled him to take ownership of some land but not title it in the name of Ed Budnick. Yes. Now, it would have been some sort of weird, conniving way. Yeah. Deceitful to actually have ownership of land in the name of Edward Budnick, yes, and then went back approximately 60 years later and then purchased it in the name of Ed Budnick. Now, I'm going to want to know, is there anybody in the U.S. Treasury that has any knowledge, yes, of Joseph Budnick? Yes, police officer. Edward Budnick? hmm Now, I know that when I was sitting there with my own father when he was alive, we were drinking one night, sitting around the kitchen table, and he told me certain things that he thought were important to me to know. Yes. Where his own father had said, I crossed the desert when I was 16 years old. Decided to go south to look at exactly what was going on. Now, he died in 1988, 3 months after my 18th birthday. Born sometime in 1902 to 1908. Yes. Seemed to be some discussion about exactly his actual date of birth. What was going on in Arizona in 1920 to 22, 23? I'd like to have the state of Arizona. Oh, I'd like to know every sheriff, Sheriff Joe. Yes. Every sheriff in Yavapai, in Yuma, Arizona. Yes. In the police department of Phoenix, Arizona. Yes. All of you that have any knowledge right now. Now, let's say that I wanted to put a small, but happens to be the world's largest smeltering plant, approximately 20 miles north of Arizona on what could be considered reservation land or could be considered my land when I sue the reservation. Because a lot of these Indians did not really protect their reservations because they're misprisioning of treason. Now, I know you say it's your land. You were here first, but since it's constitutional, yes, it is, and you do elect the various tribal leaders as having actual positions in the government that are liable for their oaths of office. Give me each and every reservation of the United States in the last 40 years of oaths that called themselves Indian when it suits them. But when it came time for you to support and defend the Constitution of this great nation, yes, you decided that you would not write a written complaint. Yes, you would not write a written report of child abuse and child neglect. Now, every tribal reservation of this nation that has any knowledge of the abuse and neglect of children, considering my sons are in the wrong grades, the abuse of them for them being deprived of their father for the last 8 years. Yes, I'm absolutely sure that I do have ownership of each and every reservation, and I've looked at the constitutional agreements between yourselves and the federal government. So for you to suggest to me that I can't put the world's smelter, yeah. See, I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to smelter up all the junk cars in the east and west coast of the United States. And I'm going to do this because I want the tensile strength of the composite metals and the effect of salt water being pumped to the smelter, producing fresh water and what's known as steam generating, producing a large amount of electricity that the state of California is going to buy from me right now. I wanted South Dakota to know that I'm going to do this because I emailed you 3.5 years ago, South Dakota. Now, for every sheriff in South Dakota, North Dakota, and Nebraska, that they did not do what state law requires as a duty of the office of the sheriff. And for all of those mandatory reporters in those 4 states right now, I am taking ownership of the right side, the upper right corner of the state of South Dakota. Now, I know you said it's been Indian for years and years and years and years. But considering that I emailed the police department in South Dakota, yes, in close proximity to the actual upper oh, north west corner of the state, yes, you do. I think you have considerable amount of liability. Now, did you tell me I wasn't going to own the upper north half of South Dakota? South Dakota. Now I have. Well, that's my half of the state. For the rest of you that live in the other half of South Dakota,